As you guys know, I am renovating my house, and while this is happening, I had to find a cheaper place to stay. So I found this apartment in a communist building, and I want to show it for the Western people who never saw one, how it is like. And meanwhile, I'm pretty sure every single Eastern European that is subscribed to my channel will recognize these types of buildings because they have been built as if copy pasted. So without further ado, let's look. So the first thing you experience as you enter is a powerful smell that hits you. It's a smell very hard to describe, but I think if you would force me to, I would compare it to the smell you experience in a swamp. The reason you get this is, as you can see, this is a trap door over here, and it leads to the basement. Now, the basement is almost always flooded. Almost every single time, no exception. And it's also flooded with lukewarm water. And the reason this happens is that the building is extremely old. It was built in 1977, and I highly doubt that the plumbing system seen any major maintenance since. As you saw outside with the old woman living in, there's a bunch of old people living here, and they simply would not have the money or the resources to change the plumbing system. So what they do is that they just ignore the issue, and when it's something that goes out of hand, they just go and they patch that specific pipe, which is causing problems. But I don't think anyone would replace an entire pipe top to bottom because of its age. And here you have the walls having mold on them. Again, same thing. I don't think people will add a new layer of paint anytime soon. So what this room is, it used to be a place where people would dry their clothes, especially during winter. So you would wash them by hand in your house. Very few people had washing machine. That was like an absolute luxury in 1977. So you'd wash your clothes in the bathtub, and then you would go into this place that every single floor had, which was called the dryer, and you would basically put your clothes out to dry along with other neighbors. Some kids would deposit their bicycles here, or the football that they would play outside. The reason they would do this is because as we're going to enter one of these apartments, you will notice everything is very cramped. There's not a lot of place inside. So a lot of people would use this in order to deposit them. But now everyone has a washing machine. A lot of people also have the function for the washing machine to dry the clothing. So these spaces are not used anymore, and as you can see, there's a lock. The door is also pretty old. I assume this might actually be the original door that was made in 1977 and was never replaced. So as you can see, there's a little bit of high tech here, a little bit of futuristic technology that breaks the atmosphere. There are indeed cameras on every floor, but this is it. It's just on the stairwell. Like there are no cameras for the actual hallway. I guess it's because some people were just depositing trash and they wanted to see who is doing it. It's interesting that they're trying to have some level of security because even though there is an intercom, it's not working. Like I can just open the door without the need of a key card. So I don't really understand why they decided to have an intercom if they're not actually using it. Obviously, there's no elevator, and it's no problem climbing it like this. But when you wanna buy something that's heavy, when you actually have to carry something heavy up the stairs, it's quite a burden. So this is it, and what's interesting about it, right? Like as you're looking at it, the communists wanted everyone to have a house. This is actually something they advocated for, right? Every single person has the right to a house. And in order to do this, they created these matchbox houses, as people used to say. They're very cramped, as you can see, one next to another, and an entire hallway just with houses. Obviously, comfort was reduced because they didn't focus or care about comfort. All they cared about was to fit as many people as possible into the smallest amount of space as possible. And something else that's interesting, because they advocated that everyone should have a house. Obviously, there were still people that were homeless. Interesting fact. In the cities, especially where the middle class lives, people who are homeless were arrested by the cops because being a vagabond was actually a crime back then. So they would either be sent to a prison, or they would get a roof over their head, I guess, or they would be sent into shelters that the state would own, and they would be forced to work and do some sort of some sort of job. Um, Now, usually you would be assigned to one of these houses if you were a married couple and you'd have a stable job. Like, let's say I wanted to work as an engineer. What the government would do is that they would give you a job as an engineer, but it was on the other side of the country. Like, they had a specific policy not to give jobs to people that lived in the same city. And this was done in order to displace people and, I guess, end racism, right? Because they didn't want an enclave of people with the same ideas and the same ideologies living in the same place. They wanted to displace people from their families in order for them to have the only idea that is communism, right? They needed to be part of the collective, and no other ideology or family ties were acceptable. The tie with the state should have been the strongest. So if you were a married couple and you had the job, and let's say I wanted to work as an engineer, they would assign me to a different city and they would give you one of these very small apartments. And obviously the problem is if you had kids, because as we're going to see, the living conditions inside are what they are. So we're going to go in now and see how it's like to be inside one of these apartments. The first thing you notice as you enter the house is a wave of scorching heat. It's like being in an inferno. I think the temperature is 30 to 35 degrees just inside. And I think the reason for this is that you only have a single window, right? This is the only opening. The kitchen doesn't have any other window to create any sort of draft or air current. So the air feels very stale. And not only that, it's also very hot. The only way you could get some ventilation going is if you have air conditioning, which a lot of people here can't afford, or if you open the main door. But, who wants to stay inside with the main door open when anyone can enter? Another thing which you will notice is the traditional way of internet companies in Romania of putting cable. So this is actually an internet cable that's being hanging around like this. And I also contacted the second company and they just dumped the cable like that. Now, I understand this is the gold Romanian standard, if you will, right? The reason they do this is because the people who are putting the cables, the cable guys, they have a target from their company. It's like you need to go to 20 different houses today and put cables to all of them. So they legitimately don't have time, because if they fail the target, the company will give them wage deduction, and in some cases they will fire them. So what they do is they just come to your house and just dump the cable like this. And if you don't like it, tough shit, because every other internet company does it the same. Like you don't have a competitor you can go to give you a better cable. So what some people do is that they hire someone that's going to, come after the internet company and maybe just use a stapler and put it like this, find different ways to deal with this problem, because I noticed like at first I thought I was the only one having it, but no, right? And then I noticed this very old intercom. I think this one used to be high tech back in its days, and it's really cool because you can actually call other neighbors. Right? This is way before the cell phone era. You could just come into your house and pick it up, and you could call some other neighbor, and you wouldn't have to pay for the landline by doing so. I don't know when it was installed, definitely after communism, right? But at the time, this was definitely an expensive investment for this block. So I want to show you the bathroom. Now, the first thing you notice about the bathroom is, again, the horrible smell. And the smell isn't coming from my place. It's coming from the pipes. It's coming from everywhere, right? Because it's a very old building. I'm betting no one fixed the plumbing. No one ever looked into the pipes since it was built. So the smell is so bad that I can see the previous owner, right, the person who lived here before me, they put this thing at the bottom here in order to try to keep the smell out, but it's still not 100% successful, right? So you're also mixing that with the poor ventilation, and you have a recipe for success. Now, what I want to show you is how small the bathroom is. Now, I don't think you can realize, but because you don't have a single scale, but basically you can't lie down in this tub, right? Like you would have to stay crouched in it, and very, very tiny, right? Incredibly tiny sink. And the biggest issue of all, like the biggest problem, is that you can't put a washing machine in here. There is absolutely no room to place a washing machine. Now, this is the main room, and obviously, it's seen a little bit of renovation. Like there's been brand new paint, and there's been the floor was remade, new furniture. I mean, it's not from the communist era. The books are still very old. I think the books are definitely from the communist era. But other than that, like, this is the main room, right? So in this particular case, I got like 2 beds. They're very old. I offered my aunt to buy her new beds, but she didn't want to. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much it, right? Now something very interesting about it, something that I found incredibly interesting, is that at night you can hear whatever your neighbors are talking. Like it's almost as if they would be next door. So during the night I can hear the neighbor from upstairs, I can hear the neighbor from downstairs, I can hear the neighbor from in front and the one from behind. And honestly, I'm starting to think that maybe this was intentional, right? Because we're talking about the communist era, where people were afraid to speak out against the government. So if you knew that your neighbors hear you, you would be more mindful what you talk indoors. Like you'd be more careful about what you're talking while in the house. Now, finally, let's go into the kitchen. So as you can see, like everything is minimalistic, right? Like very, very small sink, very, very small stove, which you can get, and that's pretty much it. And again, there is absolutely no place for a washing machine. Like if you want a washing machine, it's very difficult to have one. I think most neighbors just would put it here, right? Like where this thing is, and that's how the only way you could do it. But then you'd have like this massive pipe going from the kitchen all the way over here. The electric outlets are, I don't know, like you're playing Russian roulette every time you put the socket in or out. So my overall impressions with this, how do I feel? Like I lived here for quite a while, and my overall impression is that this is a great place if you're a student and you're moving out. Like maybe you have like university and you need a place to stay. This is excellent for that, right? You don't need anything more. Obviously, you can invest some money to increase the living standards. Maybe if, let's say you're just some guy that works in another town and you need a place to stay, right? So it's great for that. But the communists didn't intend it for that. The communists intended so that people live their entire lives here. It is absolutely atrocious. Like imagine having a wife and 3 kids. When are you going to fuck? Seriously, like where are you going to even have any sort of privacy? Like you're literally living with other people face to face. Like there is absolutely nothing that you can do which is going to be private. Every time someone makes some noise, you're going to hear it. Like if you want to study, you can't go into your own room in order to have some peace and quiet. And I think this is how the house was designed to be for large families to live here. And I think my neighbor actually has, maybe I should talk a little bit lower because maybe he can hear me and he understands English. Yeah, but my neighbor has like a family of two, right? His wife and two other kids. And I just don't understand how he manages. I have only admiration for managing to pull that off. I personally would not been able to. It's very difficult, right? So this is what a lot of people go through. Again, the refrigerator is something else that you manage to fit. What I see a lot of people are doing are they're putting their washing machine here, right? And the refrigerator is also one that's really small, like only this part would be the refrigerator, and they put it on top of the washing machine, and that's how they manage to get it to fit. But yeah, let me know what you think. This is what the communists envisioned, right? Because everyone needed to have a house. And this is one way to get everyone to have a house. I mean, it's obviously better. It's a step up than being homeless. It's a step up than being in a shelter. But at the other end of the spectrum, right, everyone that could afford more, everyone that would be able to save and buy something better, well, tough shit. You have to live here like everyone else so that there's more place for other people to live.